Hello and welcome to the 20th episode of Tailoring in Conversation. In this series, I'll be talking to tailors, business owners, cloth merchants, and other industry participants from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. If you're a tailor or you're interested in tailoring and you've enjoyed the contents of this channel so far, please subscribe to support us as we've got some exciting things lined up for the worldwide tailoring community. My guest for today is Manuela Leis, also known as the coatress. Manuela is a bespoke tailor, overcoat maker, and fashion designer based in Berlin, Germany. Let's get started. Manuela, thank you so much for making the time. We have tried to set up this call for a while now, and every time there was something in between, but now we've finally managed, and I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you, and I should start by asking you how you are.
I'm very well. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm also good. I'm also good. Today's kind of my Sunday, so on Sundays I usually try to schedule the week and then plan everything ahead as much as I can. And sometimes, if I manage, talk to colleagues like yourself.
Okay, so did you get your to-do list done already for next week?
Well, I can't do to-do lists anymore because to-do lists they don't help me to focus. What I usually try to do is I try to think of one thing that I should focus on for the next week and then see how that develops. Because usually if I make a to-do list, I manage to tick things off, right? I manage to take things off, but I usually end up taking things off that aren't that important. You know what I mean? So I always try to think like, what is the most important thing that I can do next week? And usually I don't manage to answer that question. But if I do, then I'm quite happy.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Manuela, I have a question that I ask everyone. And the first question is, suppose our parents were friends and me and you were 10 years old and we would be playing and running around the house. What sort of a friend were you at 10 years old if we were friends?
You have to ask my friends that. Yeah. What sort of friend? An idealistic one, I guess.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
In what ways?
I was just recently meeting with my best friend from primary school, and we are still pretty close, and talking about some stuff from earlier days. And
Yeah.
he told me a story I almost forgot, and it was about he had an argument with our other friend, and they were fighting, and it was super weird because I was in between, and so on. So he told me he was so impressed in this young age already of me because I took the how do you say this? So I took his side and I was talking to my other friends, so like, you are behaving like an idiot. I had to laugh about that very much because I'm so sure I have been in exactly the same situation in the other side of this triangle as well. And so
Yeah.
it's funny to just see.
Did you grow
But
up in Berlin?
no, I'm from Bavaria, from the beautiful Allgäu.
Yeah.
Lots of cows and few people.
Have you been living in Berlin for a long time, or is that something like for a career choice you made?
No, I went to Berlin for studying fashion design in 2010. And since then I'm here with breaks in between. So I went to Greifswald for working and I went to Dresden, but like, but on and off relationship with Berlin I have.
And when would you say that you knew that you want to pursue something to do with making things and creating, clothing and dresses and whatever outfits that you started to get interested in?
Like getting interested in making stuff and making garments, or getting interested in learning it professionally?
Oh, okay. Well, I would love to know both because I know they are different, but if you could explain both.
So the first thing, so like this making stuff and creating stuff, this was from early childhood, I guess, because my mom was, or my aunts and everyone in my family is just all doing stuff with their hands in their free time. So there are a lot of embroiderers or knitters, and my mom was working as a seamstress. My aunt was working as a seamstress. There was always stuff lying around, and we were playing with that, like when we were kids. And so I realized only later when I was in my apprenticeship for tailoring that we were doing this kind of moulage and draping stuff, like playing around, and it was like really the same techniques and the same way to approach we make this. And I remember that me and my sisters, we were drawing a lot and creating dresses for my teddy bears and for my sister's puppets. So what our mom should have then please made for our toys for Christmas and stuff. So but it was more really like in playing, and I think I must have been a bit of an exhausting child. So my mother gave me like this there were these cards where you can embroider some pictures and stuff. I loved that. I was knitting with my fingers because I couldn't hold the needles and stuff. So, and this was all very playful and very like, oh, I want to do that. I want not like I want to learn that, but I want to do that because it's fun just to make something. And then you start with just a thread and something else comes out of it, and you just had fun for a couple of hours and be in your world. Yeah. So this, and the professional approach was in 2007, where I started my apprenticeship, but it took me a while to realize that I wanted to be a tailor. So, yeah.
Do you think that if you were not around someone or family members who were doing things and making things, that you would have found it more difficult to actually get started when you did start?
No.
No, it was naturally in you.
I don't, it's like, I mean, it was, I start with things I'm interested in. And so for this time it was then tailoring I was interested in. So I started it and I stick with it. But I often started other stuff that I didn't stick with. So it's just like, I felt it and I started it and it was good and I felt good there. So I was doing a lot of music. So I played the clarinet and I was a choir girl for all my school life. And after school, I quit that. And so so my entire life was completely built up around making music, and then it stopped. And so it took me some time to just find something similar that gives me the same feeling or the same possibilities to be in the moment as like making music. Because I didn't want to be a professional musician. That I knew, but I didn't know I wanted to be a professional tailor or a professional crafts person. So it was more about this, I need to do something with my hands, otherwise I will smoke way too much, and so I need to keep my hands busy. Rest my mind by that way as well.
And then when you decided to actually do it professionally and start an apprenticeship, where did you go and how was that process?
I started that when I was still in Vienna. So I went to Vienna after school for studying, and then I did not pull that through. And then I found that very wonderful school, which is called Herbststraße, which is old, like from the KOK times, already existing school, and they were formerly teaching embroidery, and then they became part of the Wiener Werkstätte. I don't know if it says so, like this artistic craftspeople school from Vienna, this movement. And so they still had a very artistic, designy, try out approach on teaching, and not like the strictly regulated methods may have in a when you go into a tailor shop, so where everything is like, so you have to do this first like that, and then this like that, and so there was way more room to explore material and to explore the how you work, so how, which techniques you will apply to that certain kind of fabric to create this and this look, and to keep alive this more experimental way of finding to shape. So, and this is I love that. It was a great prep, but it was in the women's department, and I already knew that that I would love to go to the men's tailoring, because all of those hand sewing techniques are applied in the men's tailoring and not in the women's, or not as much in the women's tailoring, except when you go then like these evening gowns and dresses and stuff, which is not so my cup of tea. And so it was way more interesting to go to the men's department. Yeah.
You say something very interesting. I'd love to explore that a bit. You said that their approach in teaching was more of a playful way, where you were allowed to experiment and really study the way the fabric interacts and how you can manipulate it to create multiple things. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that was guided, and how did they, because I understand that it's not as structured of, you do step A, B, and then C, but at the same time, I don't imagine that they would just say, okay, here's some fabric, go ahead and play, because then they wouldn't be teaching you necessarily something specific. So how was that?
It was structured. So they, I mean, we started off with making, I think, like a skirt or something. So there was, you didn't start with a jacket, obviously. So we started with skirts and blouses and dresses and stuff. And but there was this workshop days where we were really with a teacher, and he showed us how to make these kind of pockets and stuff. So all of this technical stuff, we had a subject for that, only for the technical side, how to do stuff, how to sew it, how to think, how to layer and everything. Then we had one where we learned like really this is the rule of how you do it. So you get a like a map where to pull through, so to what step comes after what. But then we had this kind of experimental tailoring, it was called, where we could make our own designs and use different techniques, so combine all of the techniques we learned in different subjects into one subject for garment construction. So we did our patterns ourselves. We had pattern construction as a subject. We had weaving and printing and knitting and embroidery as subjects. So we could all apply of these parts into the one garment, which was then the main model of the semester. And so it was very wide and very open and very intense in the single subject. So you had a lot of content to learn and to take in, but you also had the options and the possibilities to apply all of that knowledge you had gained through the other subjects. And this was very nice. And I kind of missed that when I then came to the university to study fashion design. So it for me, this apprenticeship in Vienna at Herbststraße was way more valid and I don't know, way more effective than studying fashion design in Berlin. So this was more like all the time asking myself, what the hell am I doing here? So it was not the best decision to study fashion.
So what would you say were the things in the fashion design that made you think I would much more prefer the other method? Was it less practical work, or?
So thinking for the industry. So it was more conceptual, which I enjoyed parts of it. So, but it was always like thinking in the season rhythm and all of concept fashion and trend topics and color palettes. And it's interesting if you do that once or twice. So I got the way of doing it, but I'm not interested in it. So it's just, I'm not interested in trends. I'm just bored by it. And if this is then, I was always more interested in quality and creating something that lasts. So I'm happy I found that with tailoring where I can do that. But in the fashion design, or at least at my university, it was more that they were kind of belittling the craftsmanship. So it's like, yeah,
Yes.
you tailors, you can sew pretty well, but we are doing the design, we are doing the art, and you are only copy pasting this kind of stuff. And I was so, how to say that, disappointed and confused, because I did not understand how people that come from the industry have really no idea about tailoring. So nothing. So not only about the skills, but also the approach and about the expectations you have towards your own work, and what it has to be, and how it has to, or it should look, and so this entire, how you deal with the garment and how you construct it so it will last. And this was always, so they didn't take it serious, and this was very hurtful. So maybe that was also a part why I wasn't happy there. So I just finished it to have at least one degree. So because I did my apprenticeship of tailoring in Austria, and I came back to Germany, and so on. They didn't take the exams from. So there was a problem with the, I don't know the word. Mit der Anerkennung, you know what I mean?
Oh,
so they didn't accept my diploma as diploma.
The recognition, yes, the recognition, yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on the thing with the seasons, because I feel like if you do have an artistic approach to your work, a framework that forces you to think in seasons is almost as if you have to make what others want to see or hear rather than what you have to say. And so I fully understand it, and I've experienced it myself as well. So you moved to Vienna, to Germany. Why didn't you stay in Vienna and continue the work there? What was the difference in Germany and Vienna work-wise?
I was deadly unhappy in Vienna. I was suffering my life there. It was just horrible, horrible, horrible. And now it's nice to go back there and meeting friends, and also my former teacher from the apprenticeship. But I was just, I don't know, in my early 20s, and just hating that city. And it was all so slow, and they were all just circling around themselves. So this was just Vienna being Vienna, and I was bad, and I had to leave. And I thought it would be very important for me to go to Berlin and study fashion design there. So this was just my idea of what is important for me. And then I came to Berlin and had the same. So it was more about me personally and trying to get along with myself than with the city I was living in. So it was not Vienna, it was just me to that time trying to get shit together. And here in Berlin, the same. So it's just Berlin is circling around itself as well. So it's the center of the universe, and nothing outside of Berlin is existing, or, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think I have here way more freedom in, for example, if I were in Vienna, I'm not sure if that would work with coats only. So I think this is working here in Berlin because it's Berlin. I'm not so sure if I could pull that through in Munich or in Cologne or in Hamburg. So it's, I think, something that fits in that city, and that's why it works. So in the moment, I'm still kind of dependent of staying here.
How big would you say the tailoring scene in general is in Germany? If someone doesn't know anything about tailoring in Germany, how would you describe the tailoring culture in Germany?
Well, it's growing for sure, but how big it is, and so I don't know, because I'm very ignorant. So I know a few people, and so you get connected to people on Instagram, but there are for sure a lot of tailors that are not on Instagram. And that doesn't mean that they are not existing just because they are not promoting on the gram. So I think it's a smaller scene than in the UK, for sure. And it was very long dominated by a couple of tailors but that are now very, very old. And I think this kind of younger generation is now taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's getting more feminine.
Okay.
So from women's tailors working also in the men's tailoring, and it's not the
Mm-hmm.
strict separation anymore. And I mean, we had to, so this is my opinion. I always had the conclusion that in Germany, bespoke tailoring was dying because we had BOSS. So it was not the goal to get a bespoke suit. It was the goal to get this fucking BOSS suit. So, and, and I think that was something the tailoring industry, so like the real craft people, tailors, had to fight against all the time. But there is now a different consciousness about garments, about consumption in general. So in the younger generation in general, I have the feeling they are way more interested in things that are lasting, because they kind of understood this circle of consumption and of cheap production, and that globalization is not always good. And so with this change of mindset in society in general, and the switch of the generations, so there's kind of I have the feeling there's kind of a very large switch of how things are seen and accepted. And so I think for us tailors now it's getting better, and there are more and more very good tailors in Germany.
You mentioned something very interesting, and you said that there are more girls and women's tailors making menswear tailoring.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? I don't know exactly how this would work. Do you think that men making for women and women making for men changes the way the clothing evolves over time? If men's tailors would make for men's clients for like 100 years, and women's tailors make for men's clients over 100 years, what kind of differences would you see in their approach, you think? And vice versa, of course, the same as well. And men making for women.
So I cannot say that in general, because I don't know how my colleagues are working and how they are approaching their garment. I mean, we see each other's work, but it's still, so everyone has his own little secrets. It's not shared. So I don't know if there's really, I mean, obviously, when a man works on a garment, he has kind of this male gaze of what a man is supposed to look like, and maybe a woman has this female gaze of what a man is supposed to look like in a suit. So I have my own idealistic shape of body I'm trying to put into my garments, but there might be a different idealistic picture of how the shape is supposed to look like. So different aesthetics, different. So this, I don't know if you can really separate this, and this is how women do it and this is how men do it. I think we should leave the separation aside. So we are all humans and individuals, and I think everyone has a different view on shape and beauty and proportions and how everything should look together. So, and this is what makes it beautiful. So you have different styles of suits, and you have different styles of coats, and the ones put their waistlines super high, other ones put them super low. Then some people like it super bulky sleeves, and I like them super slim. Or how do you create the colors, if you put them close to the neck or if you leave more. And there's of course what the customer wants, but you still have your style that goes in it, even if I must say I'm not a fan of house styles. So it's not, I'm working for people. They give me money because they want to have something I make for them, and it shall look like they want to have it. And even if it's not my personal taste, get my work, so this is, and I don't force them to then wear something which I think is good, just and it's not theirs. It's not then their garments, and they will never wear it because they feel kind of in disguise, or it's not their piece. And so you have to stick to what the customer wants. And although you cannot, so I cannot hide my style, I think. Although I like to think that I do, but if I'm honest, I always see that's was my idea, and I couldn't let it be. So like this kind of stuff.
No, it's a very good point. I completely agree with the house style thing. I've always found that the house style thing works very well from a marketing perspective, you know, thinking that, oh, if you want that style, you go to that house. If you want that style, you go to that tailor. And that makes it maybe easier for if you're wondering what tailor should I go to, then you can answer the question, oh, what style do you want? And then go from there. But I do believe, just like you mentioned, that if a client comes to you, it's your job as a tailor to be able to extract their character and their personality, and then kind of like infuse your style automatically within the work, but make it there so that it's not you copying, pasting what you want to be on them, but what they want with your interpretation, kind of thing. Right? Now, another thing, what I wanted to ask you about the men's wear and the ladies' wear, how do you, just asking how you approach, do you find that when you make when you make a lady's jacket, for example, or you make a men's jacket, do you approach them differently, or do you approach them exactly the same?
Yeah. So why should I mean? So in terms of pattern, of course, I do a lady construction for a woman and a men's construction for a man. I work with the same materials. I work the same way. So I like this very. I mean, you see what I do on Instagram. So and I like this kind of building a piece. So it has to be kind of very structured. And very defined lines, and I love it to have no pleats at all. So it must look like a comic drawing, like an Asterix and Obelix. There's never any wrinkle ever. So so this kind of, it must look like
yes.
that. Yes. And so I use also this padded canvas stuff for women's, but the women that come to me, they like this style, so they are looking for this. Oh, cool! This is like really nice heavy garment, and this so this is maybe the customer I'm addressing. So in
the beginning of the conversation, you said most tailoring conversations are boring.
For that,
tell me more. Tell me more. I'm interested. Why do you think they're boring?
Because my life does not only exist of tailoring, and tailoring is interesting, and of course you can talk the entire day about techniques and about styles and about the work and the hustle, and that's so there are other things to think about, or to do, or to just different stuff to spend your life with. And so this I don't know, we are all busy, super busy in tailoring, and there's so much work, and there's so many orders, and oh god, and I have to do extra hours. But who says that? I mean, so for me, hustle is not a culture, and so I really enjoy to have my Sunday off today for cleaning my kitchen and doing my clothes. So then we do some drawings later. I don't have to do for a client, but I just do them for me, and then binge watch some stupid TV series and knit a pullover for my niece. So this is also nice.
It is
it's not tailoring related, and not for the business, and not for so this is I'm more than just a tailor. So
where do you get your sorry, excuse me, you were saying?
No, I sometimes have the feeling that you have to be obsessed 24/7 with what you do to be taken seriously. So, and I don't think so. I think I'm quite well in what I do. So of course, it's not perfect, and I find lots of mistakes on my garments, and I would do them differently the next time. But still, I don't have to go completely crazy about tailoring to be a good tailor.
I remember when I was working on Savile Row, there was this moment that it was really hot in the workshop, and two of my other colleagues, they were like stressing about something they were making, and then one of them just started screaming, "I love tailoring! Yes, I love tailoring! Continue working!" And it was just so hilarious. And I sometimes feel like that, I'm working on something and I feel the pressure kind of like rising up, and then I'm like, yes, I love tailoring. I have to do this. But
Yeah, I
on a
mean, to be
serious note,
honest, when you have some pressure and some deadlines and you have to finish something and it's just not working, and
yeah,
we all know that. So, but there are these times where you have to then pull through and just take it and close your eyes, and go for it. So, but most of the time I prefer having fun when I work and enjoying it. And I'm happy that I found out for myself when it's time to take a break, and to then take this break also, and not just knowing I should take it and then still working, because I have to I have to do my work twice then. So it's, I mean, when I force myself, so I should, because it's expected from me, from society, and then you go there and your work is going. So at least for me, it's very often that my work is then shit, and then I go there the next day and I just completely turn it off and make it new again. And then it's, so I've learned that it's better than to not do the first time shitty, but just leave it and have a break, and with the next time, and then you take way less time and way less frustration. Yeah, I feel better with it, and I feel healthier with it, and yeah. So
where
everyone
you
should
you make
do this.
you make very beautiful drawings. Where do you get your inspiration from?
From my customers. Yeah, from my customers.
When
So
when there is no when there is no
about
customer involved, where then do you get your inspiration from?
for drawings, I don't know. Just so, but sometimes it's just nice to start scribbling. So because you feel like I want to draw something, but I don't know what to draw, and then you start just doing stupid stuff with the pen, and then you see a shape, and then you form out that shape, and you throw it away and start new again. And so that's just this. It's not about the outcome. It's more about the act of drawing, or the act of scribbling. So it's, I like this, just this manual doing with a pen on paper. It's nice.
Where does the obsession with overcoats and top coats come from?
Because it's the coolest garment.
Yeah.
Just the nice, I mean, it's, so I studied theater, film, and media first after school, and there I had one Vorlesung which was very interesting. It was about the history of theatrical behavior in society. So everything is theater, everything is drama, everything is, so you are always on stage. You are presenting yourself. You want to be seen in a certain way when you talk to people, how you behave, how you are socializing, and everything is just, yeah, not pretension, but everything is just acting, kind of. And I think so you can act very well if you wear a coat, but you take that coat off, and then comes kind of the truth. But this coat is your stage garment for outside, and it's working for men and for women. Even if you have a style that is not so if you're more casual and laid back style, so you can still wear that crazy overcoat because you can lay it off. So this is just one. I don't know. I just like coats, and it was for me always the most interesting garment to construct and to work on. And it's personal. My clothing style is not so very eccentric, but with overcoats, you can just go all in, and it's super nice. And you can do that for men as well. So there are certain details or certain, these huge collar stuff. And so I just like that. It's a lot of tiny little work stuff, and it takes forever, and it's nice and cool, and I love it.
And very heavy as well, which is sometimes very nice feeling when you're wearing something heavy. I personally enjoy wearing something really heavy and close. How much of the things you learned after your apprenticeship were directly connected with what you learned during your apprenticeship? I mean, were there things that you completely discovered, new things that you thought, man, why didn't they teach me this? Or was it kind of like an improvement upon the things that you originally learned? How was that developing?
So we had so from the sewing part and the technical part, and there was nothing I gained in university. So it was way better in my apprenticeship. So from the technical in university, we had 1 hour a week in the first semester, and they taught us how to sew a shirt. That's so, and all of this. It was less working in the model or with the garment. It was more on paper and sketching and making a concept. And this is the trend topic and analyzing the topic. And then from this analysis, you take on why you take the colors and why you choose those materials. And it was more like a cognitive work. So I didn't feel it. It was way less creative than working on the actual garment and being in the material and experiencing how the fabric is and how it behaves under the machine, or if you need hand sewing techniques for working on that and creating some certain shapes. This was all in self-study. And so I did not think that the education I got on the university was the very best, to be honest.
Why do you think that is? I hear that from many people. I hear many people say that what they learned in college, sewing wise or tailoring wise, was just nothing. And I hear that a lot from many different countries at the same time. What do you think is the reason that a lot of sewing schools, and not all of them, but some of them, majority of them, fail to teach a lot, or fail to teach things that you can develop on your own?
I don't know exactly. I would say it has something to do with the bachelor system. So and it depends on which school you are. So I was on a fashion school, which is University of the Applied Science, and they are very industrial driven. So you have one term that you spend somewhere at a fashion company, and it was very close to bring out fresh designers for the fashion industry market, so that you get this rhythm and you get this, okay, you have to think like someone who does economics. So it was really like, okay, how can I sell this? How do I get my order minimums? How do I get my color range? So I have to have so many pieces in that color so I can produce that color. And this is super interesting, but it's not creative, or it's creative in a different way. So it has nothing to do with this artsy making creativity. It's more like a thinking creativity. So you have to think in complete different areas and with a complete different goals than what your artistic heart would desire. But you always have to have this economical thinking. And this was just the university I was studying at. I think when you study at UDK or at Weißensee, they have a different approach to the design and to the artistic thinking towards fashion, but it's not focused on the making. So you experiment a lot on the making, but you're always taught like, okay, you have to design it and there will be someone else who's making it. So you don't have to know how to make it, and you don't have to think about how you will make it, which is maybe also a good thing, because I caught myself very often where I was then in my sketching phase and thinking about garments, and then just not drawing it because I knew it would be, oh shit, I don't want to make this. I know, because you know how to do it and how much work it will be. And so, no, I take the easy way. And this, maybe it's good to not be so much into the tailoring technical part when you study fashion design, because you then don't have these this border of oh shit, I know how much work that's going to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When did you start to actually your own brand, your own name, your own atelier? When did you start to really work for yourself professionally?
Now it's 4 years ago. So in October 2017, I officially wrote my own bills.
Okay. Oh, and what does the coatress mean? Where does that name come from?
Okay, this is going to be a longer discussion here. Yeah, it is I love words, I love neologism, and I love, I think language is powerful. But it's a mix of coat maker, seamstress, and mistress, which is the female word for master in English. But in German, mistress is always sexualized. It's always a liaison, you know, there's always something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play on that because I want not yet, but I want to be the master of codes, but I'm a woman, so I have to use the feminine
mistress of codes.
So and and I'm not on. So women are also always considered as seamstresses. So when I went out, my ex-boyfriend is also a bespoke tailor, and it was every time the same. When I got asked, "What are you doing?" I'm a men's tailor. When he got asked the same, I'm a men's tailor. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm kind of expected to be able to sew or to tailor. So not a big deal. And I wanted to make a point there, kind of. Very obvious point that just pushes you in the face, but, you know, subtle and coming from the backside. So.
And what would you say have been the most crucial things that you had learned to be able to set up your own atelier and make a living from that?
It wasn't ready.
You wasn't ready. Interesting. No. Okay, please tell me a bit more because
there was just no other option for me. So I was working at the theater and the opera, but I was so unhappy with what I was doing there, and getting employed with a proper tailor is just so everyone's working from alone. And maybe you get a small job there, so like 450 euros a month for 10 hours a week. But I wanted to be a full-time tailor, and those jobs are super rare, except on the theater and on the opera. And this was just hard. And for me, it was really, I always knew that I wanted to be self-employed. So not even if I didn't know I want to be a tailor, but I always knew I will be self-employed. And I was just trying to get as much experience and knowledge and different techniques and different approaches, and to just broaden my field of experience and tailoring wisdom. I could have done this for 10 more years if it would not have been so horrible in this construct of institutionalized art. So this was just shit. But I think, I don't know if you ever feel ready. So because there's always more to learn, and you're never good enough in your own perception. So there's always like, oh, I should be really able to do that before so it's either your own sanity in your head or taking the risk. So like, you're gonna take this risk, or I had to take the risk of completely failing because I couldn't stand in theater world anymore. This was just an option. Yeah.
So let's say you think with yourself, you know what, I'm not ready, maybe fully 100%, but I know that I can do X, Y, Z, and hopefully that will be enough for the beginning stages. What would you say were the basic things that you knew that you could do, at the very least, that it could get you started for yourself?
Well, that's difficult. I knew that it's not so much about the talent or the exceptional perfection you have as a tailor. It's more about your conviction to do that, to make that. So, and the want and the sort of, I stay with it, and it has so like this fighting for, this willingness to take it, to go all in.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had that. And even if I had a difficult customer I had, but it was super cool. I knew that I was smart enough to figure out how to deal with problems, or to. So I also had the benefit of having a close advisor from as a tailor. So I never was completely alone with that. So I always had someone where I could go and ask and find some help and get some support. And only knowing this was so super helpful. Just so it was not that I couldn't finish my work in the beginning, so without help. So, but it helped a lot to just talk about this. Hey, and he has this so a very heavy scoliosis, my very first client, and he wanted to have this Jimi Hendrix jacket with a lot of golden embroidery stuff, and really cool. But from the pattern making and you had to construct complete two sides of the body, because there were so different measurements, and bringing that together again, and this then with all of the decoration on top, it helped a lot to just speak about that. So I had my own therapist for my first client, and after I managed that, it was like, okay, cool. So this was such a difficult piece. And I made that, and so this gave me a lot of confidence to just go ahead. And the second piece was very nice then as well, and the third piece as well. And then I started with my Instagram stuff and got a lot of, so there were a lot of people just telling me, oh, that's so nice what you do. And so I gained more and more confidence. But in the beginning, it was really like I had a super difficult piece to make as a first piece ever on my own watch, and worked quite well. And he's still a customer and spends a lot of money with me. So,
and how would you say what I'm curious to know is that, when you work for yourself, you have the complete freedom to do whatever you want when you're approaching your work, in whatever order and direction you want to take it. There is nobody that tells you, oh, why are you starting with that? You have to start with that. And so you choose, right? Now, what would you say are the disadvantages of that? Well, what would you say are the advantages and the disadvantages of being completely in charge of everything that you have to do?
I think this letting go is one of the most difficult things. So you of course, you are responsible for everything, but you are also a human being, and everyone makes mistakes, and everyone can fuck up something, or forgets about something, or you burn a trouser under the iron because you just left the iron there a little bit too long. And so this is, and this letting that go and accepting, okay, everyone makes mistakes, and then you have to deal with it later, but not being angry at yourself. And this, I think this is the accepting your humanness, I think, is the most difficult part in there. So in this, not taking it so serious with the responsibility. Sometimes it's nice to also have this playful element in your work, and I'm mostly at the best when I have this. So then I make the best pieces when I'm just playing and not being so super serious and it depends. So sometimes I also have these very serious and very focused moments as well, but most of the time I try to have this more and fluffy and nice. And
would you say that you try to actively balance the harmony between being playful, experimental, and artistic with your work, and also keeping to a structure, or is that not the case with you?
Sometimes that goes well, So sometimes it's working that you keep the structure while being playful, but sometimes it's not working. And then I learned that for me, it works best when I just accept I cannot keep the structure. I just have to let go with the play. So I have to keep on playing and forget about the structure. So because I think a structure helps you a lot to getting stuff done, but sometimes it just closes some doors where you could have walked through when you didn't have the structure. And discover there are some beautiful stuff you can then apply for your next project, or just have in mind and experience new stuff. So for me, it's very much about, I love tailoring because I love this playing around and experiencing new stuff, which I can apply to different parts of my life and not only for tailoring and making garments.
Will you ever consider to take on an apprentice?
Yeah, I'm preparing that in the moment.
Are you? Okay. So tell me, this is, I'm curious to know. What do you think is the fundamental, most important thing to teach an apprentice?
Structure.
Structure. Oh yeah.
But this is exactly my problem. This is I know that I have to find a certain structure I'm sticking with when I want to teach someone else. So because it is so difficult to, so I work every piece similar, but there is always something else I do. So or try out or want to see the effect of that, and bringing that to an understanding for an apprentice who is just new to the subject, I think that's super difficult for the apprentice then to learn. So I think for the beginning to learn, you have to have a certain structure. And then when you have internalized this, then you can start playing around. And so it's my goal now to find this way of having kind of a structure in my making, so I can teach that actually to someone else.
When you say structure, do you mean structure within the craft or structure within their within their position in a workshop? So how they behave and how they interact with others and how they schedule their time to be maybe more effective or more creative or whatsoever? Or do you specifically mean the steps they have to learn to be able to make something?
I mean the steps.
Okay, so the make, yeah.
Someone getting when you get an employee, or when you in general when you're working with someone, there has to be you have to get along with each other. So I expect a certain behavior towards people in general and friendly, and so this kind of when it has to be, then you stay 10 minutes longer because that buttonhole has to be finished. So this is what I would get really mad at when people say, now it's 7 o'clock, I'm leaving, and the middle of the work. So but then come 10 minutes later tomorrow, so stay longer, finish your work, and then make the day off tomorrow or whatever. So you have to have a feeling for when it's time to stick with it and when it's time to just say, okay, I'm the afternoon gone. So and just cleaning and rolling fabrics and getting organized with all of the needles and stuff. So
how long do you usually work per day, roughly? What's your average working hours?
Do you mean I am present at my workshop or actually working?
Well, you can also include thinking about work with it. So
it really depends. It depends on the phase I'm at, or at the stage I'm at in a garment. And I have I would say not problem, but I have struggles working on several pieces at one time. So I have to focus on one piece at one time. So I'm only working on one piece at one time, and then I do the next, and then I do the next. But it's just, you have one body that is shaped like this and a personality that's like that. And then you have a different body with a different personality and complete different needs for the garment. And you switch back and forth. And I like to be very intensively in one garment. And that's my focus then. And in this focus, I can play. And so I start mostly at 11 until 6 or 7, but I have breaks in between, and sometimes I stay longer, and sometimes I say at 4 o'clock, yeah, well, fuck it, I go home now. So it really depends on how the flow is and how the stage of the coat is, and sometimes you have to stay there and just be focused and work on it. And so you have this line in the outcome, so you see there is no break in between, it's just happening in one part. And sometimes you can just, I have to let it be then for a couple of days because I'm just too close in it, and then I get unhappy with what I did before, and then I want to make it off again and start all over from scratch, and the thing that's not good. So it really depends. I cannot say that.
What would you say was or maybe is the most difficult thing part of tailoring that you absolutely struggled with?
Pocket corners from flap pockets. Pocket corners. So where you have to cut in the edge. I cannot do it. I still have problems doing that. Yes.
Is it because of a trauma of a pocket corner that once frayed the entire garment, or is it just the act of cutting perfectly into the corners?
Just this fucking corner and sewing it on the pocket fabric then, and so this process of pipe is this?
Jettings.
Jetted pocket. So this is, and most of the time they're okay anyway, but this is like really for me the work that I'm also procrastinating the most. It's like when it's time to make these pockets, it's like, I could have another coffee and maybe bring that stuff to the post office, and maybe I'm a friend now. And this is like really the part where I'm absolutely not a fan of. But it has to be done at one point anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I have a few words, Manuela, and I'll say them to you, and you let me know the first thing that pops up your mind. Okay. Okay. Vienna. Careful.
Hassliebe. No, it's what did I say? Vienna. Yeah, I made my peace with it, kind of. So I really like being in Vienna when I'm in Vienna, but I'm very happy that I don't live anymore.
Okay. Experiments.
Important.
Tailoring conversations.
Boring.
Still boring. Apprenticeships.
Important.
You're not allowed to use that word. You've used it once already.
Ach so. Valuable.
Okay. We can accept that. How would you define quality?
I think this is such a subjective term.
Sure. What would you say quality means to you?
I mean, I cannot only point that on. So it has to. There are several parts that make quality. So when you talk about quality in a garment. So of course it has to be worked very well, it has to last very long, but there's also the quality of how I think it's also part of it, how the tailor interacts with the customer and kind of respect, and not only towards the also towards the garment and towards the material. And so I think respect is a huge part of quality.
Okay. Risk.
Risk?
Yes.
Go for it.
Go for it. What would you say is the the most important thing missing in tailoring?
The most important thing missing in tailoring? Boah. I don't know. Can't answer this question.
Okay. I'll ask it again in a month's time, maybe.
But what do you mean? No, maybe I don't understand the question. What do you mean by what is missing in tailoring?
Well, if you, I mean, when you, for example, go on Instagram, or you look at other tailors, their work, or you look at tailoring courses, or you look at the clients within tailoring, or the work itself, is there something that you feel this is really missing, or there isn't enough of this, or I wish this thing was different, or this was like this or like that? Is there something you miss within tailoring that you think is important to be there?
Yeah, I sometimes have the feeling that when I scroll through Instagram and see all of our tailoring work, so that it's very often seems as everyone wants just to make it right, so no one can say, oh, you're doing that wrong, and I also think there are so many. So someone pulls something out which is very awesome, and there's always someone commenting like, a proper that jacket would be made like this and that. And so this acceptance of someone else's approach maybe is missing. So because I see very often this very correct, as well done and worked very perfectly, but it's also correct and following the rules. And I sometimes have the feeling that so like really in the bespoke tailoring, there's so maybe this risk taking. No one is taking a risk. There are a few tailors that are taking risks, so but not really. So maybe that's missing. It's not fresh.
Lack of fantasy, maybe?
Probably, or maybe not a lack of fantasy, but not or not being afraid of applying this fantasy, because maybe someone might feel offended in his perception of how tailoring should be. And that you're only a proper tailor if you do it like this and like that, and that's the rule and nothing else is valid. And this is what pisses me off in tailoring. So this this you have to follow the rules, otherwise it's not a proper suit. So this is just stupid. So there I think the entire tailoring world has to kind of adapt a bit more to fashion design, to think, okay, what does the customer really want, and not only sticking to those traditional rules. They are important, and I love this traditional work, but I also like to think of why I'm applying certain techniques, not only applying them because I learned to apply them, but always considering the reason for applying them, and up to that space a little bit, and not only sticking to that's what the book says and that's what my master said, and just doing this because someone else told you so, and not understanding why you do so.
You know, actually, I'd like to add something to that as well, because I do believe you're right, and this is my personal kind of like struggle I have with the concept of mastery itself. And I think that, you see, part of mastery is the fact that you have spent X amount of time learning and repeating something until you become exceptional at it. But I think another part of it is also how much you can let go of what you've learned, and kind of like how much of that, like you say, letting go and being a bit playful with it. Because I don't know who said this. I heard once someone said that if you cannot introduce humor in your work, then you have not mastered the work. You're taking it too seriously, which only means that you are not comfortable enough with it to kind of like play with those ideas without making them like the 10 commandments set in stone. So I fully agree with you, and I think it's interesting to see how learning something is not just technical, but also your perception of it and how you look at it. I have another one. Difficult clients.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, I agree. Why? Tell me why. You know, most people hate them, you know. Most tailors don't want to have difficult clients.
Because I found a way to deal with difficult clients, I think. So it's like, you have to consider it as a performance, you know? So it's like, that's the performance, like Marina Abramovic. So, and the performance is over and I'm dead. So, and kind of, and, you know, so you have to not, when you have a difficult client who's a bitch and you know, so exhausting and blah, 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 and never happy with anything. So you really have to see him or this like, oh, okay, that's also possible. So like, you know, finding it more interesting that something like this exists. So, okay, how can I deal with it? And making it more like a project or a performance on how to deal with difficult people instead of being offended or angered by that, because it's not going to make the piece better when you are angry or when you are pissed all the time about that difficult client. So, and maybe you just have to sometimes, not take it personal. Just see it as like, okay, that's something very interesting that's also existing on this beautiful world. And so let's see how we deal with that. So just playing around again.
Okay. I completely agree. Last but not least, Asterix and Obelix.
My most important source for my Latin knowledge.
Okay. Well, Manuela, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad we were able to do this. And that was Manuela. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to see more of Manuela's work, you can follow the links to her Instagram and website in the description of this video. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions, if there are tailors you want me to talk to, or subjects you want us to cover, or you have specific questions, let us know in the comment section, and we hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.